Hello everybody, welcome to your weekly Astro and Energy and Tarot forecast for the collective for the week beginning, well let's just go with December 1st. November 30th or December 1st, depending on when you're watching this, because I am recording this in the United States on the West Coast, and I've been in Europe for quite some time, so logically I would be 8 hours ahead of where I am, but that's no longer the case, so I have to get used to this. Again, apologies for the weird setup. I have not quite figured out how I'm doing these videos, but this is where I am currently settled, and so this will be the environment from which I will be sending these messages for a period of time. Anyway, exciting information to share regarding the current astrology. Aside from just coming over that Venus-Jupiter conjunction at the galactic center, we just had the new moon in Sagittarius, which was also very, very potent. And Sagittarian energy, you know, Sagittarius is the third of the fire signs, and there's a sense of, when you consider the energies of, you know, Aries is the early go-getter, sort of the raw child. Leo is when we take all of that energy and we externalize it, and we find ways to anchor ourselves in identity in the world through external channels. And Sagittarius is really the wisdom of those two processes and coming into full ownership of self. And again, it sort of is the Chariot card incarnate, the idea of the conscious and subconscious minds being in complete alignment. And so it is also a very sociable sign, and it is a no bullshit sign. So let that permeate your experiences for this upcoming Sagittarius season, well, that we're actually now in. What else is going on? Neptune is going direct. We talked a little bit about that last week. It's really difficult to figure out exactly how that's going to manifest, but in any case, it is going to have a deep impact in terms of how we experience anything related to the imagination and creativity, dreams. For me, I think that there's a lot of what this represents is deep-rooted in how we now go into the world with the self-knowledge that we've accumulated through the internal processes, particularly of the last 2 years, and how we let go of illusory and fictional narratives. Let's face it, most of us go through life lying to ourselves, and therefore that becomes the creation of our identity. And when you've told yourself certain lies for so long, you start to believe them yourself. Sometimes some people don't even know what is fiction and what is truth. And this is not an indictment of that. I think everybody goes through this process because in order to protect ourselves or in order to try to fit in, we exaggerate the truth or we eliminate truths that get in the way of the identity that we would like to portray. So this is a time where all that bullshit is going to dissipate, whether we like it or not. We can fight that process, but I don't think anybody ever got like richer in any way from fighting the truth. So, anyway, this week I've decided to shake things up a tiny little bit by starting with our animal oracle card. I feel like it will help us to better understand the reading. So, this week we have Fox Spirit. Think on your feet. And reading from Fox Spirit's oracle message. Be alert now, for Fox Spirit has appeared and you are meant to move swiftly. Let this clever spirit draw out your creativity as you adjust to rapidly changing circumstances with resilience, grace, and astuteness. Fox Spirit helps you to think on your feet, using your best judgment and wits to help you slip into a more advantageous situation. Now is not a time to hesitate, but a time for swift action of the mind, a time to think outside the box and notice the many ways in which you might make a move, aware of your surroundings and always clear on what you deserve and wish to co-create. Trust that your cleverness, guided by Fox Spirit, will serve you well. And our protection message for those who are struggling with the energies: are you camouflaging yourself in order to avoid intimacy? Perhaps you're being too clever for your own good and playing games to protect yourself. Being dishonest with yourself or others can become isolating and create obstacles to true connection. Fox Spirit calls you to be attuned to what is happening within you and around you so that your quick thinking and creativity can lead you to better relationships and situations. You are called to use your Fox Spirit beneficially rather than in ways that keep you from experiencing what you want. Or perhaps right now you are realizing that a situation is trickier than it appears on the surface and you are afraid to make a move in case it turns out to be a mistake. Fox Spirit is here to remind you that when you're in alignment with the Great Spirit, the answers and solutions can come quickly and you can trust them. Don't overthink a situation in order to avoid the challenge of facing a difficult truth. Fox Spirit's creative nature will always be there to guide you and help you move quickly into better circumstances. So, let that be the infusion of energy in this reading that we are about to begin. Our underlying energy for the week: 2 cards came out, the Ace of Wands and the 6 of Swords. The Ace of Wands is some sort of major inspirational shift. It is sort of the karmic baton being handed to us, so that whichever chapter we're embarking on, whatever journey we're embarking on, because this is also a journey, both physical and metaphysical, it's divinely guided, and the inspiration is well, intense and fast and bold. And it was clarified by the last judgment. Judgment being another card of what we could term divine intervention. It is essentially the notion that what we are experiencing is fated and that there will be a strong sense of it being fated. You can tell that. Like right now, I can tell everything that I do in the last week. It's been like this. There's a sense that there's not coincidence and not even serendipity, but just a flow to things, as if something is clicked. And it's like having not been on the right path and then being on the right path, so therefore things seem to happen with more flow. And so that's nice energy to be in. In our past, we're coming out of Five of Cups energy. I think we had the Five of Cups in our foundation last week too, and it was clarified by the Devil. You know, the Five of Cups is a card of sorrow, and it is very much a card of feeling stuck because we have not resolved the way that we feel about certain things. Now, because this is in the past and it's an underlying energy, it to me is saying that we have moved beyond that, but that a lot of the serendipitous flow that we may be feeling now is coming as a result of letting go, finally, of that sorrow, of having, you know, that grounding in a sense of loss all the time. When we come from a place of loss, we naturally infuse new experiences with that sense of loss, either through expectation or through conditioning. And given that it is clarified by the Devil, the Devil is all of our addictions, all of the overcompensatory behaviors that are meant to fill voids because we're too afraid to actually look into the empty spaces and figure out why they're empty. And sorrow generally leads to self-destructive behaviors, whether that be codependency or addiction or escapism. And where we are moving into energetically now no longer holds a space for that type of directionless loop of self-destructiveness. We then have, in the past, the Knight of Cups, clarified by the Three of Swords. Now, I think that this sorrow that we are looking at in the Five of Cups is rooted in rejection. It's rooted in the narrative that we have adopted as a result of whatever experiences we had probably a very, very long time ago in our lives that made us feel invalidated, where we opened ourselves up to being vulnerable in expectation, in bargaining for the validation of another person who probably was not mature enough to know how to deliver either what we were looking for or the rejection in a way that would be humanly compatible. And we can become so broken as a result of those types of misunderstandings. We don't generally look at our negative experiences through the lens of the time during which we experience them. We look at them through the eyes of who we are today, which means that very often we find ourselves with very limited perspectives. And the Three of Swords is a card of heartache, but it's, in this case, a really deep heaviness carried within, of conditioning that we are learning to let go of. And in doing so, we are coming into a deeper understanding of just how self-sufficient we can be emotionally with the Nine of Pentacles. That's where this process has led us. Again, it's still in our underlying past energy. So this is this process of moving through sorrow, escapism of sorrow. Then probably reliving a cycle of rejection or emotional frustration that then in turn triggers the cycle of pain manifestation until our conscious mind is able to go into the subconscious and wrestle with our inner demons in order to let go of them, in order to come into that space of self-contentment. And, you know, we have the Nine of Wands clarifying that. So these are two nines. These are cards, the nines generally to me, because they're the last card before completion of a cycle. They are cards of self-awareness. It's the stage at which we find ourselves reaching maturity. And it's not easy. It doesn't feel good. But, well, I shouldn't say that. It does feel good in a certain way. It feels good inside, but it doesn't feel good in terms of the way that society has conditioned us to expect external validation. In our present, we have the Hierophant, clarified by the Ten of Cups. Now, the Hierophant in this particular reading is about routine. It's about environment and belonging within such an environment. And it may be that for some time you perhaps haven't been part of an external infrastructure, and now that you're in that position to have the experience of the construct of either a social or work hierarchy or some form of pattern to which you are choosing to conform, manifesting right now. And I say choosing to conform because the Ten of Cups is a very positive card. It is a card of, well, it's the ultimate in happiness. It means that whatever this environment and infrastructure is imbued with warm emotions. And the tools that allow you to move from this self-satisfaction into the flow of being able to give back of that into an infrastructure, an external infrastructure of some sort. We then had the Ten of Cups in the other deck, so that's Ten of Cups clarifying the Hierophant, followed by the Ten of Cups as the main central card of our entire reading on top of that. So, happy times, good things, balance, a sense of perspective. If you look at this card, these people, obviously it's a family that's very happy, but at the same time, they're looking out to the rainbow, they're looking out on the horizon, and they see balance, they see potential, they see infinite possibilities, they see all of those 10 cups within their reach. Now, it was clarified oddly by first the Blasted Tower, that's the Tower card, and then Death. So, Death kind of trumps the Tower card in this case. What it is saying is that this that we are feeling comes as a result of the end of this difficult karmic lesson. Maybe if you look back on the last decade of your life, you can see how something used to really characterize your entire life journey in a very negative way. Something like a bit of a lead anchor. And there's this feeling in this shift of the karmic cycles that we have reached the conclusion of some kind of existential lesson, and that is where this buoyancy and happiness is coming from. The joy stems from lightness of being and a sense of possibility, perhaps for the first time in a long time in your life. We then had the Eight of Pentacles with the Eight of Swords, and clarified by the Chariot. What I think this is trying to tell us is that we're coming into a period where we're going to have to do some hard work. Hard work within the construct or infrastructure that we were talking about at the beginning of the present reading. And the hard work is hindered by this. We've talked about this so many times, and it's so easy to fall back into this energy. The Eight of Swords is the card of self-limitation. It is feeling trapped by not just our circumstances, but the narrative that we tell ourselves about ourselves. In other words, are you telling yourself you're too old, or you're too fat, or you're too poor, or you don't have enough of this, or you don't have enough of that? These, at the risk of sounding very cliched, it is the law of attraction. It is the idea that if we focus on the things that we've already been through that were difficult and dark, we've overcome those things, so therefore that means that we've learned something. But very often we attach ourselves to those negative timelines, and they become our identity, and then as a result of that, we focus on why we can't do things rather than focusing on why we can. We give ourselves permission to do either. So if you've got an uphill battle with work or trying to restructure your life ahead of you, focus on the Chariot energy, which, as we've talked about so many times before, and I know it gets a bit boring to say it over and over again, but it is ultimately the way that we function best as human beings. This is the balance of the conscious and the subconscious mind, of the yin and the yang, of the divine masculine and the divine feminine. If you are out of alignment, you will feel like this. That's just the way it is. So this may also be saying, with this being a work card, that you actually need to keep working hard at this. It's a conscious, continuous, lifelong process. Don't be discouraged by that. On the contrary, it means that you have a lot of time to make mistakes and to be victorious. But it doesn't stop. It's a cycle. That is what life is. Just a cycle of experiences and lessons, and processing those in a way in order to elevate ourselves, in order to be greater contributors to the collective consciousness. In our future, so upcoming energies for the week ahead and beyond, we have the Queen of Pentacles clarified by the King of Swords, and I got a little confused by this, so you know what, I'm actually going to take a clarifier, because I do think that the Queen of Pentacles is telling us that we have a good financial stability ahead of us. And it's being in a place where what we are providing for ourselves and what others are providing for us is keeping us in a healthy balance. And because it was clarified by the King of Swords. King of Swords is really the person who stands in their truth and who knows their values. And so therefore perhaps this is about adapting your experiences based upon this self-confident sense of value, of personal values. And using that as the rudder to how you experience abundance. Knowing our own values, being self-assured in our values, means that we experience bountifulness through our inner life rather than our value in society. And this was clarified by the Ace of Swords. So again, this is that divine intervention of truth. This is coming into a higher sense of knowledge. This is mastery of our thoughts through an opportunity. So it could indicate that you know, something that we feel could be a test in some way actually gives us the opportunity to prove to ourselves once and for all that we are master of our own destiny through the values we have learned spiritually and intellectually. This is followed by the sun, which was clarified by the Seven of Cups and the Two of Wands. So the sun is really a beautiful, beautiful energy for us to have on our future horizon. I mean, we had the sun last week too, and I honestly feel that the sun tells us that our environment is full of potential. Everything is full of potential. And it's also having the ability to recognize that potential. I mean, if you look at that little kid on the unicorn, that's the type of energy that you're going to be feeling. I don't know what that says to you, but it may be a little difficult to put into words at the risk of sounding weird. But I'd be pretty happy if I was riding a unicorn, naked, with flowers in my hair, with the sun shining down on me, and a bunch of sunflowers facing me. However, what we get from this is that this warmth is also leading us to a sense of, there could be a lot of choice on the horizon, a lot of options, and that can feel like being spoiled for choice, you know? But what we have to remember is very rarely when we have 7 cups, are all 7 cups going to be able to bring us the same type of potential. I'll just go with potential. I won't qualify it. But, you know, in these particular cups, you can't really actually see. They're actually, in the Hermetic tarot deck, they're all sort of interconnected. So I think that this emphasizes the idea that when we make one choice, there's a trickle-down effect, or in some shape or form, all of the other choices are also affected. But it's about choosing which one. I mean, in the Rider-Waite deck, this is a card where the different cups have different things in, and some like are shiny jewels, others are snakes. You know, not all cups are full of things that we really want to experience or that we're really going to benefit from. Some experiences are empty. So we have to practice discernment, which is what the Two of Wands tells us. The Two of Wands limits that down to 2 choices. And we all know that when we're well informed and we're in a place of truth and abundance, the choice makes itself. And anyway, it's the journey that counts, and the sun is telling us, this is telling us how the journey will feel, more importantly. So no matter which one of these 7 cups you pick, you got this on your side, so enjoy it. But the Two of Wands pretty much tells me that we're going to make the right decisions. Just be aware that there could be more choices than you're ready for. And finally, in conclusion, we have the Queen of Wands. And she was clarified by 3 cards that came out together. Again, the 8 of Swords, the Star card, and the Knight of Wands. So let me tell the story that these cards in combination tell. Queen of Wands, she stands in self-confidence. She is an outgoing, charming, witty, talented person who knows her worth. And because of that, she's generous of spirit. And she sees herself as, she sees her gifts as being worthy of connection. The 8 of Swords is what gets in the way, as we saw before, of tapping into this energy. So we're being reminded to work diligently to avoid that sense of lack within ourselves. It is about the stories we tell ourselves, and we have to tell the right story. So it starts with you. Allow yourself, give yourself the permission to tell a story that actually builds you up rather than tears you down, that opens doors rather than closes them. The Star, again, like the Chariot, is there to make sure that we understand that we hold the key to that balance. We are able to do this by practicing balance, by focusing on harmony, and by giving ourselves the tools and the opportunities to be in flow, to tap into source. And you know, you do it through living in moderation, healthily, harmoniously, meditate, sleep, be merry in whichever way you want, but moderately, and have fun. That's what the Knight of Wands says. There's going to be a lot of fun on the horizon. So even though there's a lot of hard work, and we are moving into a new understanding of our place in the external world, we're going to do it with a smile on our face and with pep in our stride. So allow yourself to be light and free, and have faith that all that you've learned is taking you down the right path. You've had time to reflect. You know that this is a new karmic cycle. You know that we're moving into some brand new territory, and that, you know, you're gonna fuck up every now and then, but you're gonna do it with lightness this time. You're not going to let those experiences put you in this state of mind. This is over. Do the work. Stay in balance. Have some form of faith, wherever it may come from. Faith in yourself, at the very least. And from there, the journey will unravel. And on that note, I leave you for another week. I wish you all the very best.